fellas, what's going on? It's Preacher and it's Feral Kitty Scratch Those Claws Day. You guys voted for it at PreacherGaming.com and you wanted to see some kitty cats scratch the eyes out of some big bosses. Well, we're going to do it today. We're going to take a quick look at all the changes that have taken place from Cataclysm to Mists of Pandaria, and then we're going to jump into some gameplay and show you exactly how it's rocking and rolling. Easy stuff, really cool. Okay, so first things first, as you guys are probably aware, is you get your own spec. Yeah, so long we've been suffering with this. Well, I'm kind of like a druid bear slash cat, and I have to pick up talents for various different things, and sometimes there's talents mixed in there that I clearly don't want because they're for other stuff. They're for tanking. I want to be DPS. I want to do this and that. So what they decided to do is, hey, you know what? Let's just give druids 4 specs. This is pretty cool and a double-edged sword for me. I used to be a feral druid during TBC, around about Ulduar time, and I did enjoy that I had some tanking talents to pick up on progress. Should things hit the fan, as they do, I could always switch over to bear form and do a pretty decent damn job. But still, you can still kind of do that, but you're missing out on some key abilities that you would get in Guardian. That's okay. So let's look at what we pick up as a feral damage. I wish they would say pussy. That would be cool. But it doesn't. So we get Mangle and Shred, obviously. Now, what they've done is tried to tweak Mangle and Shred so there isn't that much DPS difference between them. If we look, Mangle is cheaper at 35 energy. It does the same damage as the actual hit, 420% normal damage plus 239. Shred is 40 energy, doing 420% damage plus 239, exactly the same. The only difference is Shred does get a 20% additional damage against bleeding targets. So what does that mean? Well, ferals have always had this stick up the arse, basically, where they can't, if the target was in front of them, they couldn't get behind to Shred, and Shred was significantly more damage with a Mangle. It really peed people off. So what they've done is they brought them closer into line. You will still get a slight DPS benefit from Shred, no doubt about it. But if you can only Mangle, or you have to weave in some Mangles, it's not a massive DPS loss anymore. You're going to get 20% additional damage against bleeding targets only. So Mangle isn't that far behind. You still want to be using Shred as much as possible. But if you do have to Mangle, it's not the end of the world. You don't become the most useless raid member in the universe like you used to. We've still got Rake, giving us a little bleed and a combo point. All good stuff. And we still got Rip as our main finisher, doing 53,000 damage over 16 seconds, and it really hurts. I'm sure the PvPers who've come up against feral druids would know exactly how dangerous a big comboed Rip is on your face. Savage Roar still made it into the game, good to see. Finishes the finishing move that increases your physical damage done by 30%. No, it's physical damage. People confuse Savage Roar with the old way it was, which buffed all your damage. It's not the case anymore. It does not buff your bleeds. No bleed buff. It buffs your physical damage. So your Shreds raw damage, your white attacks, all that kind of stuff, and the Ferocious Bite. They're going to get a buff from Savage Roar. You still want to keep Savage Roar up. It's 25 energy. It's all good, baby. You want to do that. Very cool. The other stuff I wanted to point out is some guys asked about this for the PvP side of things. I don't do a lot of PvP, as you guys know, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware. So if we go down into Feral, skip across, Primal Fury is still there, so we get 2 combo points for a crit. All good. And Predatory Swiftness is still there. We have a 100% chance when we do a 5 combo point finisher to make our Cyclone, Roots, Healing Touch, Hibernate or Rebirth instant, free, and castable in all forms. That's right, so if we need to rebirth somebody in a raid, we just target them, hit the rebirth, and we will be fine. We don't lose any DPS, we don't have to come out of cat form or anything like that. Meow, 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 winner, chicken dinner. All good, absolutely fantastic stuff. Omen of Clarity is still there. We still want to be using that on our Shreds, obviously. Shred, our most expensive ability at 40 energy. Omen of Clarity is going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. And our Mastery is still based on bleed damage. So the more Mastery you have, the more bleed damage you're going to be doing. Very cool. Other than that, not much change. There hasn't been a great deal of change whatsoever for the Cat Druid, but there is a nice synergy that's come from talents that I really want to touch on for you guys. Let's talk about Ravage. Ravage requires Cat Form and also requires Prowl. Costs 50 energy, expensive, but causes 750% damage plus 428 to the target and reduces the target's movement speed by 50%. Ravage has a 50% increased chance to critically strike targets with over 80% health. Raid bosses, look out because the Cat Optimus Prime is about to run straight up your brown eye as soon as the fight starts. That's right, Ravage really hurts. But Ravage requires Prowl, so you're thinking, well, yeah, I can prowl up. I'm a sneaky cat. And then you get into a position and you drop a Ravage, which probably won't crit. Oh, there it is, 28,000 damage. That's without Savage Roar. Very awesome. Now, look at this. I'll touch on the talents quickly. Feline Swiftness and Wild Charge, still hate this. I hate this. Cat form and bear form should have Feline Swiftness built in, and we should be able to pick up Wild Charge. We need a charge as a melee class. I just think it's so useful. But Feline Swiftness is just so good. 15% mass passive movement speed is so cool. You can, of course, switch it if you're going to be leaping backwards and forwards and then in a stationary position for a while. It is a choice to be made, but I don't like it. I don't think Resto needs a Wild Charge. Moonkins, arguably in PvP, etc., etc. But still, I would like to see Wild Charge just given to Feral Druids. I think it's such a cool ability, and having to choose between the two is really, really frustrating. Our survival ability for cats, you might remember with the Guardian Druid, I'll link to it at the top for you guys. With the Guardian Druid, I rocked with Renewal, because it's 30% of your maximum health. For a tank, that is a huge, amazing cooldown. Really good. With Cenarian Ward for the cats, I think is the better choice to go for. It costs mana, so it doesn't cost us anything while we're in cat form. Cenarian Ward costs us some mana. It's a 30-second cooldown, and it lasts 30 seconds. It protects a friendly target, causing any damage taken to heal the target for 9,000 every 2 seconds. For 6 seconds. So we have this buff on us, so we could just pop it on while we're DPSing. You see I've got Cenarian Ward on me. And for the next 30 seconds, if I take some damage, I'm going to start healing myself. Very, very cool and very helpful in PvE. We obviously want people to take care of us. We've got healers in a raid, we've got all that kind of stuff. Should an incoming damage come on for us, we've got a little extra hot to throw on ourselves. It costs us nothing. It's really, really nice. Mass Entanglement, Typhoon and Fairy Swarm are pretty shitty for a PvE cat, so nothing to worry about there. Now this is the one I want to talk about. This is the DPS affecting talents. First of all is Soul of the Forest, but I'm going to talk about Force of Nature first, which is summon your Treants. That's fine. You can summon your Treants, and we all know what Treants do. They go ahead and do some damage. That's cool. They can be killed. They can have things happen to them. They're okay. A little bit gimmicky. I would like to see the Moonkins just keep that, but Force of Nature is there for the Ferals, should you want it. Now, Soul of the Forest. I'm going to roll with Incarnation in this, and I'm going to explain why shortly. But I think when you're in that period of time, when you hit level 90, and you're starting to do some 5-mans and stuff, Soul of the Forest could actually be a DPS increase over Incarnation. And I'll explain why shortly. But first of all, for Soul of the Forest, if you are a feral cat, your finishing moves grant 2 energy per combo point. Which means with low health mobs that we tend to find in a 5-man heroic, we can actually get 10 energy back per finisher, allowing us to easily swap between targets, get more rips up, having that 10 energy buffer to get us moving and keep us rolling and rocking and keep that nice, big, continuous DPS going, as we tend to need in 5-man heroics, especially with chain pulling and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is what I want to talk to you about. It's Incarnation, King of the Jungle. This is what you get while you're a feral Druid cat. Activating Incarnation, it's on a 3-minute cooldown. This improved cat form allows the use of all abilities which normally require stealth, allows the use of Prowl while in combat, and removes the positional requirement of Ravage. Now, this is so cool because this lines up perfectly with Berserk. 3-minute cooldown on Incarnation, 3-minute cooldown on Berserk. Berserk reducing the cost of all cat form abilities by 50%. Now, think about this when we go for the big pull. We've got Ravage. Ravage giving us a 50% increased chance to critically strike targets with over 80% health, as raid bosses tend to do for a little while. They have that for a quite long time. It hits like a truck. 750% damage plus 428. It costs 50 energy. But when we line it up with Berserk, it actually only costs us 25 energy. And when we're using Incarnation, we can spam it. We can absolutely spam it. So I'm just going to show you a little quickly here. We got Feral very far in that. I'm going to put a Savage Roar very, very quickly. And I'm going to rake. And then I'm going to go, oh, Incarnation. Boom, boom. 25k, 26k, 26k. Get a rip on. And I'm just spamming the hell. 30k, 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 30k. It's just so much damage. Yes. And we mix it in with all that kind of stuff. It's so cool burst. Now, at level 90... in raids, especially raid buffed and all that kind of gravy stuff, I have seen our feral druids in guild do immense amounts of burst to where Ravage is coming out so high on their damage. You can see that 45% of my damage is Ravage. They are coming up so high with Ravage damage because they've got bosses, they've got raid buffs, they've got all the debuffs on, and they're just spamming Ravage with this extra 50% critical strike chance. It costs hardly anything with Berserk on, and with Incarnation we can spam it, and it doesn't even matter later in the boss fight because Ravage still hits like an absolute truck. So cool. This works really well. So when you're raiding, I can see this being the only choice to be picking up because it's damn good. It is so cool. Touching on the glyphs, don't worry about the rest of the talents, they're not amazing. I did want to mention here, I did moan quite a lot, especially in the overall Druid talent video, is about this stuff being very hybrid based. It allows you to do a lot of heals and stuff like that, and there's a cat Druid I don't want to be healing. What we found that in the heroic modes especially is the DPSs having the ability to support the raid in some way, either by healing or preventing damage. Some sort of hybrid ability actually is very, very important, because there are abilities coming that healers alone just simply cannot deal with on their own, and they need the support. So doing symbiosis with Shadow Priest, giving them tranquility is awesome, all this kind of stuff, and buffing our healing with Nature's Vigil and all that kind of stuff, really, really cool. Really, really cool. Clue? What? Preach. Loser. Let's jump into the glyphs. There are some really nice glyphs. I did complain about the glyphs for Feral Druids. They're not too bad for cats. They're okay. First of all, is Glyph of Cat Form. Increase the healing done to you by 20% while in cat form. Also giving a great benefit to Cenarian Ward, and just making us much easier to heal for the raid healers. The longer we live, the better we can be ballers and raping those damage meters. Yeah, we can. Glyph of Dash. Dash having a lower cooldown, guys. It reduces the cooldown by 60 seconds. Is a DPS increase. No question about it. Being able to move faster when we need to move is better. Being able to do that more is more better. More better? Good God, my voice has gone to hell today. And our final one is Glyph of Savagery. This is really cool. Sometimes we're juggling things. We've got Rake on one side, we've got our Savage Roar, and they all seem to be ending at around the same time, and we're not in a position to get enough combo points up to refresh all of them nicely. So what we have now is Glyph of Savagery, which means, hey, if you get caught in that position, it's not the end of the world. Glyph of Savagery allows us to cast Savage Roar without any combo points. It still costs the energy. It results in a 12-second duration. So if I'm going to jump into Prowl, so I'm in stealth right now, and I'm looking at my boss, I can actually get ready, first of all, to fire off a Savage Roar before I even pull. There you go, and it does not break me out of stealth. I'm still in Prowl, and now I have the Savage Roar buff up. You can see that. Very, very cool. And now I have the ability to keep Savage Roar up 100% of the time. If we get into a situation where Rip and Savage Roar are about to wear off, Rip you obviously want up. It's a big finisher, lots and lots of damage. The more uptime it has, the better. We can fire off that Rip, and then we can quickly fire off a Savage Roar for just 25 energy, and we'll get a nice 12-second buffer. Very, very cool. Really like that glyph. So helpful for those times when our management of our debuffs and stuff really doesn't work out well. Don't worry too much about the other glyphs. The only one I want to mention is Glyph of Grace. Reduces your fall damage while in cat form. Sometimes we get knocked in the air. It happens. We go flying. We've got no parachute. We're a cat, for Christ's sake. Why would I have a parachute? Glyph of Grace does allow us to take less damage. Very, very sweet. Don't worry about the Glyph of the Chameleon. It gives you different random hair when you change into cat form. Although I haven't actually seen it work. Oh, yeah, there you go. It's the first time it's worked. While filming the video. Awesome. Let's jump into some gameplay now and see exactly how things are rocking and rolling. Alright, so we jumped into our first dungeon here. What I've done is I've picked out a couple of clips which demonstrate some really cool features of the Feral Druid and how they play. Overall, it's still very similar and trash. You're wondering whether or not you're going to be putting Rip up, should you use a Ferocious Bite. In the 5-man heroics, you're generally going to be using Ferocious Bites. Rips is never going to last long enough, even in these early days of 5-man dungeons once we hit level 86, 85 and jump into the first few. But that's okay. We get some nice interleaving between doing swipes and thrashes and keeping our combo points going. But what I wanted to demonstrate for you is here. This is where I blow Incarnation and go maximum Ravage source. Now watch the damage meter change when we use this burst combo. You can see I just pull so far ahead. It's an insane bit of synergy. I absolutely adore it. I mean, I'm not the best Feral Druid in the world by any means. Not even close, but still, you can put together this lovely little macroed combo. You can macro these together, so you've got cast Incarnation, use Berserk, and just go ballistic on your target, and you can just see that reflects in your damage so well. I can't expect you enough how important this will be when you're doing those big raids. After you've come out of that Incarnation phase, you're going back to your usual rotation. You're trying to keep in as many shreds as possible, using them Omen of Clarities to use those shreds, and keeping Savage Roar up and your Rip all at good times. And don't be afraid that once your Rip and Savage Roar up, you to sit on your combo points for a while. A lot of people seem to think they're like rogues. We've got to use our combo bites immediately. Feral Druids don't really work that way. We don't use a lot of Ferocious Bites. We just don't do it. What we do is we say, hey, you know what, my energy rebuilds pretty slowly, I've got 5 combo points, why don't I just save those? Why don't I wait until I need to use them again? Then I can guarantee a maximum uptime on my Rip, a maximum uptime on my Rake, and a maximum uptime on my Savage Roar. I'm going to get much, much better results. And you can see how that worked out in the damage meter at the end, is I wasn't trying to spam every single combo point in the universe. Don't worry about the dead, that'll happen. Like I say, this was actually the 4th run I did on my Feral Druid, and it was not the best. This is another thing I wanted to show you, which is how Feral Druids AoE. This is pretty cool. Very similar to how the Rogues are playing right now. Is Swipe. If you've got 1 combo point on a target, Swipe is going to start giving you combo points as well while you're AoEing. This is immense, and it gives you great opportunities to burst. You can see when those targets come in, you can see exactly again how it changed on the damage meter when I went into big swipe mode, and you can see my swipes are generating combo points on the targets. Thrash doesn't do this. Thrash will put a bleed on the targets. That Thrash is really cool for just getting a bleed on, but after that bleed is ticking away, you want to be using swipe all the damn time, getting those combo points generated. And what we could do with that is we can actually put a rip on one target, change to another target, and start doing that again. So we just continuously generating combo points while we're AoEing. We can even get up a big fat Savage Roar. What I tend to try and do is get a rip on the target. AoE, you got your Thrash going, you got your swipe going, get up to 5 combo points, drop a rip on the target, and then using that glyph we talked about earlier is that we can very quickly get another Savage Roar up and then continuously AoE spam, doing huge amounts of damage. This boss in particular was also very cool for me to show you, is target switching. A lot of people complained in the past about Feral Druids being unable to target switch very effectively. It's not really the case anymore. What I like to see here is I used the Ravage burst at the beginning. You can see the burst has pulled me so far ahead of everybody else, but this boss in particular involves a lot of target switching. You're switching backwards and forwards every 10 or 15 seconds or so. One could argue that I shouldn't have used Rip, but Rip did get plenty of ticks off. There's definitely an argument to be made that you shouldn't be using Rip because these mobs do go immune when they get their shield, and maybe that Rip is wasted. Definitely an argument for that. But you can see here, all I'm doing is swapping in between. The advantage of here is when you leave combo points on the old target and move to a new one, before you start generating combo points on that target, you can use those combo points for something like a refresh of the Savage Roar debuff. Very cool thing to do, and it's very similar to how the rogues have changed as well. Instead of wasting combo points, which is what we were often running into as a Feral Druid, is we would swap between targets. I might have 4 combo points, I can't use them, it sucks. You can actually just switch between, even if you're not targeting that mob, and fire off a Savage Roar, refreshing your buff insanely, and just making sure you've got maximum use out of every single combo point. You can see me, I do it repeatedly, absolutely repeatedly, swapping between these targets, getting every use out of the combo points I possibly can. So sure, there's some mistakes here and there, but that's not the problem. What I'm trying to show you is that target switching perfectly fine. You can see you can just see it reflected on the damage meter. The numbers themselves don't matter. The balancing is still yet to be done. But when I come to a target switched mob, it's no big deal whatsoever. I can just keep swapping between, still getting nice burst off, and still making best use of every single combo point where I'm moving around. That's the Feral Druid changes. I'm hoping there might be some little changes when it comes to actual release, but because we've got 5.04 on the PTR, maybe not. I'm not going to show you anymore because that pretty much summarises everything, guys. So there's your Feral Druid changes, and that's how the gameplay is looking for the Ferals. You take it easy, ballers, and have a great day.